have a future. But today, they got that future back, at least a semblance of it. Their life has returned to a sense of normalcy from what happened 2 years ago. These released hostages are not just numbers. They carry stories of trauma, of survival, and of resilience. For world leaders like Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump, this is a story of a successful takedown of a terror group like Hamas. The focus now shifts to Egypt, though, where the future course of Gaza will be determined. In fact, that peace summit in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt is going to begin in just a few minutes from now. So what lies ahead for Gaza? Is the war really over, as Donald Trump declared? We'll get to that, but first, listen in to the victory speech of the Israeli Prime Minister to his parliament earlier today.
My friends, this is only a partial list, but it's enough to affirm what I've said time and again. Donald Trump is the greatest friend that the state of Israel has ever had in the White House. Our heroic soldiers fought like lions. They fought on the front lines of civilization and barbarism. Israel achieved amazing victories over Hamas and the entire Iran terror axis. Sinwar, Dev, Hania, Nasrallah, Assad, they're all gone.
Now, Donald Trump may not have won a Nobel Peace Prize like he wanted or his loyalists wanted, but his efforts in Gaza cannot be overlooked. In a volatile region of West Asia, he did play a key role in pushing for stability and humanitarian progress through diplomacy and strategic engagement. He applied sustained pressure on the Hamas group to secure the release of hostages who have been held captive for over 2 years. That emphasized the humanitarian concerns and the urgent need for their safe return. Donald Trump actively engaged with multiple stakeholders across the Middle East. He fostered dialogue and cooperation to address the ongoing regional challenges and to promote stability. He supported the strategic decision for partial withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza, aiming to reduce tensions on ground. The facilitation and enabling of increased delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza, ensuring critical supplies reach war-torn communities suffering from shortages of food, of medicine, of essential services. All that was done by Donald Trump taking the lead. He co-chaired the high-level Sharm el-Sheikh. He will be, in fact, co-chairing that high-level Sharm el-Sheikh summit alongside Egypt's president, and that only strengthens regional partnership and coordination of collaborative approaches that we've seen to conflict resolution, not just by Donald Trump, but by all other world leaders who are going to be sitting down at that negotiating table in a few minutes from now to decide how the reconstruction of Gaza takes place from here on.
For so many families across this land, it has been years since you've known a single day of true peace. But now at last, not only for Israelis, but also for Palestinians and for many others, the long and painful nightmare is finally over. And to all the families whose lives were forever changed by the atrocities of that day, and all of the people of Israel, please know that America joins you in those two everlasting vows: never forget and never again. Now we're going to forge a future that is worthy of our heritage. We're going to build a legacy that all the people of this region can be proud of.
But is this really the end of war, like Donald Trump declared today while he was speaking to the Israeli parliament? Well, several challenges lie ahead, and that's something that the Sharm el-Sheikh Egypt declaration will look forward to. A key obstacle to lasting peace is Hamas's refusal to disarm or to reduce its military capabilities. Viewing its arsenal as vital resistance and negotiating leverage, Hamas's stance raises the risk of renewed violence. Gaza's damaged infrastructure and slow aid hinders its reconstruction or its rebuilding as well. Without steady funding, without steady security, these conditions will only worsen, risking any attempt at future peace. Unresolved Palestinian statehood fuels internal divisions between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. What that does is it only weakens their negotiating position. Without unity and a clear political framework, this ceasefire risks being only temporary rather than a lasting solution. Gaza's conflict also affects neighboring countries. It's not just about Israel. Regional stability is at stake as well. Any flare-up risks escalating tensions and undermines peace efforts. Managing that is going to be crucial to maintaining that ceasefire, which is also why it's important to see the outcome of this summit that is being held in Egypt. Gaza's post-war governance is weak, it's divided, it risks chaos and renewed violence without effective leadership to manage this stability and reconstruction. But there seems to be no consensus on what this leadership will look like, who will be at the helm of affairs. But today, it was a historic moment when after over 2 years, these 20 living hostages were returned by Hamas. They were sent out of captivity after 2 long years and they finally reunited with their families. They spoke with their families after 2 years. It was really an emotional homecoming.
אתה לא מאמין, חיים שלי, עזה תהיה בסדר, אין יותר מלחמה, אתם כולכם חוזרים הביתה.
כולם, מאמי, נגמר.
זהו, נגמרה המלחמה, אתם חוזרים הביתה, חיים שלי, אני אוהבת אותך. חיים שלי.
מתן, מאמי, נגמר המלחמה.
גדול מתן, אתה חוזר הביתה, כולכם חוזרים הביתה, אני אוהבת אותך. חיים שלי, תודה לאל, נגמרה המלחמה, נגמרה המלחמה, אין מלחמה. אתה בא הביתה, חיים שלי, אמא, אתה בא הביתה, אין מלחמה, נגמר. חיים שלי, אני אוהבת אותך, אני מחכה לך. חיים שלי.
The hostages have returned home, but is the war over? And what happens next? All of that is being decided in Egypt. Even as we speak, we've seen Donald Trump, the US president, just arrive in Sharm el-Sheikh. Is also present in Sharm el-Sheikh, which decides the future of not just what happens to Gaza, but also to the rest of the region, to West Asia, because that's important for the stability of the entire world. We've seen how that stability had gone completely haywire for the last 2 years, ever since Hamas attacked innocent Israelis, innocent foreigners on Israel's soil on the 7th of October in 2023. And since then, the war that began continued with aggression from both sides. So will that war finally now end? Let's open that up and try and get more perspective on that. Vivek Kaju, former Foreign Secretary of India, now joins me. So thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. First up, I want to ask you, we've seen the hostages come home. We've seen both Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump declare that the war is over. But is it really?
Well, one small point before I begin. I was Secretary West. I was never Foreign Secretary. No, the war is not over. 2 points. One, the Hamas terrorist attack of 7th October 2023 was horrific. It was unforgivable. And the people of Gaza and the people of Israel have suffered a great deal over these last 2 years. So it's good that there's a ceasefire. And the people of Gaza especially can pick up the pieces again and try to build their lives. But the basis of that, of the dispute between the Israelis and the Palestinians is about the future of the Palestinians. And till that future is settled, I cannot say war within quotes can be considered to be over. President Trump's 20-point plan for Gaza had mentioned a ceasefire, had mentioned the release of hostages, and that has taken place, and it's very good. I think we should all applaud it. The world is applauding it because peace is needed. But there are subsequent points in that plan. Until now, none of those points have been addressed. One of those points is that Hamas as an entity should be extinguished. Quite clearly, till now, Hamas has not indicated that it's willing to go into oblivion. Second, I think in Europe and worldwide, in the Islamic world, India too believes that the only permanent solution to the Arab-Israel issue, the Palestinian-Israel issue, is a two-state solution. And that's been said over the decades, Palestine and Israel living side by side in peace. Till now, there is no indication that the Israelis are willing for a two-state solution. And nor, if you see the 20-point plan, is there any specific indication that the Americans and that President Trump will put his weight behind this. In fact, if anything, he has been severely critical of European countries that have recognized Palestine.
So if that solution is not reached, or if there's no consensus on that, then what is the way forward? What is it that we can expect from this ever-ambitious Gaza peace summit that we're seeing in Egypt?
Well, I'm pessimistic. We'll hear a lot of rhetoric. We'll hear a lot of praise for President Trump, some of it merited. But beyond that, I don't see a clear path. And because a clear path requires Israeli and American acceptance that the Palestinians deserve a state. Now, what will be the nature of the state? Naturally, the Palestinians want a sovereign state. That nature of the state can be a subject of discussion. But at the moment, there is no indication that either the Israelis or the Americans are even willing to consider that the Palestinians should have a state. And therefore, this feeling of injustice, which has been there since the creation of Israel in Palestinian hearts, will continue. And when there is a feeling of injustice, then it erupts from time to time. Again, I will say that what happened on 7th October 2023 was unforgivable. But I'm afraid that if the world wants peace and if the Israelis want peace, then they'll have to look at creative solutions. They'll have to give up rigidities. And they'll have to find ways of addressing Palestinian ambitions. So that is the only way forward. One last point, which is that for a long time people thought that the Palestinian issue has been relegated into almost oblivion. No one talked, even in the Arab world, no one talked about it. It came front and center on 7th October 2023 in a terrible fashion, unforgivable fashion, but it did come. And we've got to be conscious of that.
Mr. Gachar, you were talking about creative solutions, and I want to ask you that, there was this thought of Tony Blair that could be heading this independent supervisory committee, so to say, of what exactly happens in Gaza, the reconstruction of Gaza. But Tony Blair doesn't seem to be one of the popular choices anymore. There are several sides, several stakeholders that say that he's not welcome. What happens then? Should we have an independent observer at all? And if there is, will there ever be consensus on such a candidate?
No, but what is the plan state? Tony Blair is one individual, and I don't think individuals are important in this. The plan states that there will be a technical authority. Hamas will fade away. The Palestinian Authority will not be in charge. Gaza will be in the hands of technocrats. These technocrats will be supervised by a committee headed by President Trump. And that there will be an individual, and he named Tony Blair, who will act as a kind of a liaison or a kind of a supervisor of all that is happening. But that is only reconstruction of Gaza. After all, let us not forget that over 65,000 Gazans have been people of Gaza have been killed over the last 2 years. Gaza has been reduced to rubble. If you see photographs, you hardly see a building standing. Perhaps there's not even one building standing. So there has to be this enormous reconstruction. And thankfully, President Trump has given up the idea that he had floated initially soon after he had assumed office, that the people of Gaza should be removed and should go either into Jordan or into Egypt, and Gaza should be developed as the Riviera of the Middle East. Now all that has been given up, and because it was unrealistic. The people of Gaza will stay in Gaza. Where else will they go? No one else will accept them, and there are good 2 million of them.
Absolutely.
So now the question is that the present arrangements that have been announced in the plan, in President Trump's plan, only speak of reconstruction. Reconstruction is only one aspect. The essential thing is political. Until the political issue is addressed, which has gone on since the creation of Israel in 1948 between the Palestinians and the Israelis, I'm afraid the actual peace that everyone seeks in West Asia will not be achieved.
One last question, Ambassador Kaju, before I let you go, is about India's role. India is one of the representatives at this Sharm el-Sheikh summit that's just going to begin. Prime Minister Modi was invited, but MEA is now representing India. Is there a role that India can play? What is it that India should be looking forward to from this summit and from here on?
Look, India has always been an important factor in West Asia. I think if you go back to Nehru's period, India's voice was heard with great respect in that region. Later, India has vital interests, developed vital economic interests in West Asia, especially in the Arab Peninsula. So India's presence at Sharm el-Sheikh is entirely justified because India is a major power in the region, and West Asian countries recognize India's role. In fact, they recognized it as far back as 1981, if you see the joint statements that had issued between the Indian leadership and the Arab leadership of the time, that made it quite clear. So India has a role to play. I think India will get a role to play in the reconstruction of Gaza. The people of Palestine will welcome that role. And secondly, India has an excellent relationship with Israel. Prime Minister Modi has very good chemistry with Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Yes.
So I expect that all this combined will raise expectations in the Palestinians and in the Arabs that India plays a persuasive role with Israel to push the peace process forward, though that's going to be a very difficult task.
Well, we'll leave it at that. Vivek Kaju, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18 and sharing your perspective. Shifting focus now, our Supreme Court today ordered an investigation by the Central Bureau of Investigation into the Karur stampede during TVK's rally that killed 41 people. The Supreme Court bench, comprising Justice J.K. Maheshwari and Justice N.V. Anjaria, said that looking at the fact that the issue involved and has a bearing on rights of citizens, the incident has shaken the national conscience, and which is why it deserves fair and impartial investigation. The bench also allayed concerns of parties regarding the impartiality of this investigation. The court said that a 3-member supervisory committee headed by former Supreme Court Judge Justice Ajay Rastogi will be monitoring this entire investigation. The apex court observed that prima facie it appears that the stampede occurred due to police inaction and adds that the state government has denied the allegation. Here's what the order read, that it appears that due to inaction of the police, the Karur stampede took place. The top police officials abjured the fault of subordinate officials and in fact went on to defend them during press conferences. The bench observed that the police department officials, the senior officials within the Tamil Nadu police, took robust defense that officers, the junior officers that were involved and were directly responsible, were prompt in taking action afterwards. They also went on to point out that it cannot be denied that this permission for TVK and Vijay's rally to be held in Karur was granted by the police themselves. They also talk about how a similar venue was denied to another party, but for TVK and for Vijay, this particular venue was granted. The court then observed that after granting permission, the necessary steps which are to be taken by the local administration, by the police, for ensuring that such a large gathering carries out its activity peacefully, those steps were not taken. Prima facie, this creates doubt in the minds of the general public about impartiality, which is why the court decided that the CBI should be probing this matter.
The Supreme Court has now ordered a CBI probe into the Karur tragedy, where 41 people died and over 100 were injured. The Supreme Court has now set up a 3-member panel which will be headed by former SC Judge Justice Ajay Rastogi. Clearly, this is something on expected lines for the TVK, because now TVK Chief Vijay has tweeted that justice prevails. Not just TVK, even the BJP and the AIADMK have welcomed the Supreme Court judgment. And this judgment is seen as a setback for the Tamil Nadu government. But the government now says that any investigation will only bring out the truth, and adds that the Supreme Court has not given a clean chit to Vijay, nor has it said that Vijay is not responsible for the tragedy. They've only said that the CBI investigation will take place as far as this Karur tragedy is concerned, and says that the truth will come out. Once again points finger at TVK and its chief. They continue to maintain that it's because Vijay delayed going to Karur rally spot by over 5 to 6 hours did the tragedy unfold. That's the reason why many people lost their lives. That's the stance of the DMK and the Tamil Nadu government once again reiterate. But opposition parties, whether it's the ADMK or the BJP, they welcome this move, and they in fact blame the state government, alleging that it's the state government's negligence that caused this tragedy. Once again, blame game continues over this. We'll have to wait and see how the CBI investigation unfolds. But interestingly, after the judgment was out, Adav Arjun, TVK leader, had once again alleged that it was all the leaders were present at the border. They were not allowed to enter Karur district by the police, citing law and order. They said that it will create chaos and asked them not to go to Karur district. They were waiting at the border. They wanted to enter Karur and monitor the situation. They did not flee. They were asked to stay away. That's the first statement that's coming in from TVK after the verdict. But blame game over this is only escalating. We'll have to see how the CBI investigation now pans out.
The Supreme Court criticized the manner in which a single judge of the Madras High Court, the Chennai bench, had directed an investigation by the SIT into the stampede. The two-judge bench questioned how Justice Senthil Kumar, at the principal seat of the Madras High Court, had expanded the scope of the writ petitions, which were filed only for guidelines and for standard operating procedure for rallies and for road shows in the aftermath of this stampede that killed 41 people. The Supreme Court highlighted the stark contradiction in the approach of the two benches of the same High Court, the Madurai bench and the Chennai bench. They went on to say that the Madurai bench had said that the investigation was at a nascent stage and that there was no flaw in the state police probe which was brought to notice. The court further wondered when the Madurai bench had rejected a CBI investigation on the ground that there was no flaw in the investigation, at least at that moment. How could the Chennai bench direct an SIT investigation in the first place?
DMK government controlled all the media, particularly the Pudhiya Talamari channel also blacked out. Definitely the truth will come out. My leader ready to adopt all 41 people.
He must answer. He must answer to the court. We will definitely raise that question in the court even before CBI. And Vijay purposefully came late by 7.5 hours after speaking in Namakkal at around 11:45 or 12. He should have come there by 1 o'clock address. The gathering would have dispersed without any problem.
It is definitely a slap on this DMK's government's face. And at least now the DMK and this government should understand that it is the responsibility of the government which should have given protection to the people who had gathered, because the permission was sought by the public, for the public, the protection of security of the public, and they tried to somehow shift the blame on others.
Now, shockwaves continue over the alleged gang rape of a second-year medical student from Odisha near her college in West Bengal's Durgapur 2 days ago. The survivor is currently receiving treatment, but her family is alleging threat to her life. 4 accused in this case have been arrested. They've been sent to police custody. Sources say that a 5th accused is on the lookout as well. According to the police, the other 3 accused were arrested earlier, mentioning that the 4th accused's name came up during interrogation of these 3, and as a follow-up, he too was arrested. Investigators say his motorcycle was used by this group to escape from the crime scene, which has been seized as well. Now, the National Commission for Women is on ground taking stock of what exactly transpired. In its report, has now urged swift and stringent action in this case, highlighting the West Bengal government's glaring deficiencies. Sources privy to the development told CNN News 18 that enforcement agencies failed to cordon off the crime scene and that there was delay in forensic examination as well. According to sources, NCW chairperson has reiterated in the report that justice delayed is justice denied. The NCW has now recommended a few steps as well. Internal review of police handling is what they want. They've gone on to say that if the victim doesn't feel safe, like the family has pointed out, then the state government shall jointly arrange for her transfer outside of the state to a home state, which is Odisha. They've also recommended that forensic reports be expedited, that there be proper illumination and CCTV coverage of the area around the campus. The NCW has also now gone on to say that the hospital in question shall submit comprehensive security audit. Entry and exit points of this hospital also needs to have proper registers.
Today, in one hand, the political temperature was raised high, because of the comment of definitely Mamata Banerjee, with her saying that it was 12 o'clock at night when the entire incident happened at 8. BJP up in arms with all types of accusation, all types of allegation against Trinamool government. Shubhendu Adhikari was there today all through the day, and he met the victims' parents, and he also assured that he will try everything to give justice. At the same time, BJP has called for a 6 days dharna there in Durgapur. Along with that, the governor today also went to Durgapur to meet the victim's parent and also to talk to the victim. Right now, the governor is there and they are talking to the victim's parents. On the other hand, the Orissa Women Commission team, they have also reached there. Initially, they had problem to go inside the hospital, but they have gone inside and they have spoken to the victim as well as the parents. But the big question is, why such incident happened? That is a very big question. Law and order definitely is in question. And the top of that, 5 people have been arrested. All of them are villagers. But the big question also is, her friend with whom she went out, her friend's role is also questionable. That has been pointed out by the father. But till now, since the girl's statement does not mention this boy has not been arrested, but his role is also under suspicion. On the other hand, the political temperature raising high with the big question that is this the condition? There is a bad law and order condition in West Bengal?
Now, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is under fire for her controversial remarks on women's safety, because right when this crime took place, when this horrific incident came to the fore, she said that girls should not go out at night from their hostel, placing responsibility both on the victim and on college authorities. Now, this is not the first time that we've seen Mamata Banerjee or anyone within her party come out and shift the blame on victims rather than take onus for the deteriorating law and order situation.
Investigation is on. I'm shocked to see the incident, but private medical colleges also is to take care for their students, and especially the girl child at night time. They should not be allowed to come out in the outside. They have to protect themselves also.
দ্বন্দ্বের মেয়াদে আমি কিছু বলেছি, আমার কথা ডিস্টর্ব করা হয়েছে। প্লিজ আপনাদের একটা রিকোয়েস্ট করব, আমাকে আপনারা কোশ্চেন করবেন আর তারপরে ডিস্টর্ব করবেন। আমি ভাত খাই সেটা না বলে আমি ভাত বলে দিচ্ছেন। এইসব রাজনীতি আমার সাথে করার চেষ্টা করবেন না, কারণ আমি আপনাদের সাথে মিট করি, অনেকে মিটই করেন না, কোশ্চেন তৈরি করে দিয়ে উত্তর দেয়।
Rouse Avenue Court has formally framed charges against Lalu Prasad Yadav, his wife Rabri Devi and son Tejashwi in the IRCTC hotel corruption case. This comes just weeks before assembly elections in Bihar. The CBI had claimed that Lalu Prasad Yadav, when he was railway minister, engaged in conspiracy and abused his position as a public servant. The court found prima facie that abuse of power was integral to this alleged scheme. Another charge made by the CBI was that Lalu influenced the tender and eligibility conditions and that they were manipulated. The court held that the tender process was tailored to favour a chosen bidder, which is why the trial will now go on. The timing, though, raises unavoidable questions about how this will reshape electoral dynamics, given that we're less than a month away before elections take place in Bihar. The India bloc, still grappling with its internal seat-sharing negotiations, with all parties trying to get upper hand, now does face the spectre of legal controversy as well, hanging over its most prominent partner, the RJD. On the other hand, the accused parties are arguing that this is nothing but political vendetta, a tactic to derail their campaign through judicial pressure.
Investigation has charged Lalu Prasad Yadav of conspiring in order to give contracts that were fraudulent and were with an intent to get land parcels on, in fact, an undervalued rate. It was a clear quid pro quo, is what the Central Bureau of Investigation had claimed before the court. After hearing the arguments in charge for several days, which were led by senior, Special Public Prosecutor D.P. Singh for the Central Bureau of Investigation, the Delhi's Rouse Avenue Court Special CBI Judge Michal has now framed charges against Lalu Prasad Yadav, Tejasvi Yadav, Rabri Devi, and almost 10 more accused persons in this particular case. Remember that it was also stated that the allotment of these tenders was something that was fishy and involved, in fact, a process that was against the law. It has also been stated that Tejasvi Yadav and Rabri Devi had acquired lands at a much lower rate than the market price itself, and that's exactly why this whole conspiracy has unfolded. While it would not only mean that a trial in this case would begin, because when the court asked Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav, Tejasvi Yadav, Rabri Devi and the other accused persons if they claim guilty or plead a trial in this particular case, all of them have in fact claimed a trial which would begin in late October and would continue on a day-to-day basis. Now, whether it would send shockwaves to the political circles, whether it would arm the opposition of the RJD to actually hit at them, is something that would be very, very crucial and interesting to see.
कितनी भूख है, कितना लूटेंगे लालू प्रसाद उनके परिवार, पद पर बैठ के उसका दुरुपयोग करके अपने जेब को भरना और बाद में कहना हम लोग तो सामाजिक न्याय के संघर्ष करने वाले हैं।
शुरू से ही पॉलिटिकल वेंडेटा, जिस व्यक्ति ने 90,000 करोड़ का मुनाफा रेलवे को दिया, हर बजट में किराया कम किया, ऐतिहासिक रेलवे मंत्री के रूप से जाने गए, हार्वर्ड एनसीईआरटी से लेकर के आईएम के बच्चे लालू जी से पढ़ने आए, मैनेजमेंट गुरु के नाम से जाना गया। तो बिहार के लोग जानते हैं, देश के लोग जानते हैं कि सच्चाई क्या है।
Karnataka Minister Priyank Kharge has now written to the State Chief Minister Siddaramaiah seeking a ban on RSS activities in government schools, colleges, public parks, endowment temples, citing that their drills and slogans negatively impact children. He said that if the Sangh wants to hold events, let them do at Keshav Kripa, which is the RSS office. He added that poor children go to government schools to study, not to learn one particular ideology that he believes is detrimental to the country. The Chief Minister's office shared an October 4th letter that was written by Priyank Kharge along with a note from Siddaramaiah asking officials to take immediate action. That has now triggered a fierce face-off between the BJP and the Congress in the state. But this call that has come to the fore from Priyank Kharge himself is not the first one. He's made one such call 3 months ago. It's not even the first time that Congress leaders across the country have asked for banning of the RSS. In fact, the RSS was banned at least on 3 different occasions since independence. First in 1948, following Mahatma Gandhi's assassination, it was suspected that RSS was involved in the assassination and the links of Nathuram Godse with the RSS were in focus. But the ban was lifted in 1949 after negotiations and informal conditions were set with Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. RSS was then once again banned during the emergency era under Indira Gandhi's rule for organizing protests against the government. It was later lifted in 1977 when the emergency was lifted. In 1992, the RSS was banned following the demolition of the Babri Masjid along with a whole host of other organizations across the 2 communities. The ban was imposed amid communal tensions and widespread protests. However, it was lifted in 1993 after the Justice Bari Commission found the ban to be unjustified. Now, the focus is also on Congress's double standards as per the BJP. While the Congress continues to attack the RSS and claim that it's against the unity of the country, the BJP points to the rather soft stance that the Congress has taken on multiple other issues, like on Kashmiri separatists, on what the BJP calls Tukde voices. Its partner, the IUML, as well. The Jamaat-e-Islami support that the Congress has taken across different states, especially during election times. The stance that the Grand Old Party has had on the PFI, especially in Karnataka, and controversies that the AISF has courted. That has given more ammunition to the BJP.
Why is RSS being given such a free run in the country? What have they done? What is their history? 100 years. They can't even say 10 things about what they have achieved, how they have served the nation, what they have done for upliftment of poverty, what they have done to preserve the constitution, what they have done to preserve the inclusivity in India. What is their history, sir? Nobody knows their history. They themselves don't know. So the current BJP crop of leaders get their entire ideology and history of RSS through WhatsApp. They've all become WhatsApp University Vice Chancellors.
RSS has become one with the society today. So when you say you are going to ban RSS, you are saying, that you are going to try to ban an organic part of the society, which is an impossibility. This is not the first time that somebody has tried to ban the RSS. RSS has been banned multiple times earlier, and each time it has been banned, RSS has only grown in strength and come back, and the society has given it an even bigger reception and embracement. So, like I said, I'll go back to the statement of these two people, the intent of making these two statements. They're busybodies who want to actually get into the political good books of the supreme dynasty of their party. Other than this, there is no seriousness that needs to be attached to this statement.
But it's interesting because there seems to be a divide within the Congress party. Even as Priyank Kharge demands for a ban on the RSS, Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister sparked a fresh controversy, not only exposing those internal divisions, but also taking a noticeably soft stance on the RSS, defending the organization's legacy. The Deputy Chief Minister of Karnataka made remarks following a chaotic public confrontation at Bengaluru's JP Park, where a BJP MLA clad in the RSS uniform created a dramatic scene during a government outreach program led by DK Shivkumar. This was his response to that incident.
Papa MLA ge patience irilla. ಈ ಸಭೆಗೆ ಅವಮಾನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಬಂದ್ರು ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಯ್ತು ಬಿಡಿ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನೀವೇನು ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಂಥವನ್ನ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ನೋವಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಭಾವಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಈ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ, ಬಟ್ ಇರ್ಲಿ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಸೂಕ್ತ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಡಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದು.
Shifting focus now, Canada's Foreign Minister Anita Anand is in New Delhi for her first two-day official visit to India. She met with her counterpart S. Shankar and with Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal as well. Next stop for her is going to be Mumbai, where she will be meeting with Canadian and Indian firms working to support investment, job creation and economic opportunity for both the countries. But Anita Anand's visit to India is crucial. It's a step towards resetting ties between the two countries, particularly after Mark Carney became Canada's Prime Minister by replacing Justin Trudeau. So is the thaw now complete? I dig a little deeper. India-Canada bilateral relations saw a significant strain in the recent years, triggered by former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's baseless allegations against India and its role in the 2023 assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. What followed was a diplomatic fallout, marked by reciprocal expulsions of diplomats, suspension of visa services, and a pause in trade negotiations. That seems to be changing. Canada's Foreign Minister Anita Anand is in India to help move the two countries towards establishing a framework for strategic cooperation on multiple issues, on trade diversification, on energy transformation, and on security. But there's more. Anita Anand's visit can be a reset button that moves Canada-India relations from a period of diplomatic coolness to one of constructive partnership, politically, economically, and of course strategically.
Minister, let me also say that both sides for our meeting today have prepared an ambitious roadmap to advance our cooperation in various domains, including trade, investment, agriculture, science and technology, civil nuclear collaboration, AI, critical minerals and energy.
After a bitter two-year diplomatic standoff between the two countries, they have now adopted a measured and incremental approach to resetting this relationship. India welcomed a change in leadership in Canada. It engaged with the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney at the G7 summit in Alberta in June this year. Both leaders announced constructive action towards collaboration in critical areas and reappointment of high commissioners who had been withdrawn as tensions rose back in 2024. Today, Anita Anand called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the national capital after meeting with S. Jaishankar and highlighted that very progress that the two leaders, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Mark Carney, had achieved in June. That sentiment was echoed by Prime Minister Modi on social media as well.
Prime Minister Carney was pleased to welcome Prime Minister Modi to the G7 summit in Kananaskis, where they had a productive bilateral engagement, which very much informs the conversation that we are having here today. I want to suggest that the cooperation that we have seen from your side and certainly very welcome. And today we'll be discussing the India-Canada joint statement, which is comprehensive and covers a number of issues that will allow us to continue the work to elevate the bilateral relationship.
After the G7, India felt encouraged and vindicated when Canada's Domestic and Foreign Intelligence Agency, CSIS, released its annual report acknowledging for the very first time that since the mid-1980s, the politically motivated violent extremism threat in Canada had manifested primarily through Canadian-based Khalistani elements seeking to support and use violent means to create an independent nation in India. Canada also arrested individuals that were linked to pro-Khalistani groups for firearms for several other charges. Days after Canada's National Security Advisor visited India and held extensive talks with Ajit Doval, Canada designated Lawrence Bishnori's gang as a terrorist entity. A significant move because it gives authorities in Canada now more power to seize assets and to take legal measures. So what does this mean going forward? Canada may impose more legal constraints, enhance monitoring, or stronger enforcement on groups or individuals that are found to be crossing from advocacy into extremists of violent activity against India. India, of course, will continue pushing for extraditions, designations of specific organizations or individuals, and formal acknowledgement of the scale of the threat. Diplomatically, Canadian actions on this front may help ease tensions with India, particularly regarding accusations of India acting unlawfully or Canada, on the other hand, being lax. But full resolution will require sustained cooperation and transparency on both sides. Now, India has long urged Canada not to give political space to extremist pro-Khalistani elements. A first step may have been taken in that direction, but a lot more needs to be done. New Delhi has time and again requested for extradition or provisional arrest of individuals that are wanted for alleged terrorism, for murder, for violent activity that are linked to this pro-Khalistani movement, many of which are still pending. Now, despite the ups and downs, Canada and India share over 75 years of diplomatic relations. Given the significant Indian diaspora in Canada, the country's largest non-European ethnic group, people-to-people links remain at the core of relations between the two countries. In fact, in 2024, speaking of trade, India was Canada's 7th largest goods and services trading partner, with two-way trade coming up to $30.9 billion, while more than 600 Canadian firms currently operate in India. Both India and Canada are incentivized by the transformed geopolitical environment and Donald Trump's tariffs to look beyond the United States to build trade relationships. India, remember, was the first country to start trade negotiations with the United States and to voluntarily reduce its own tariffs as a goodwill gesture. But what happened? India ended up facing 50% American tariffs, which is why New Delhi is pivoting back to a multi-alignment foreign policy with diverse actors, maintaining its strategic autonomy and furthering its engagement with many countries. Trade negotiations between India and Canada seem to finally be getting back on track as well after they broke off in 2023. Now, neither Canada nor India were in a hurry to fix everything in this broken relationship over the last 2 years, but a measured approach is being taken by both sides now. Some essential first steps have been taken, but a legacy of mutual distrust needs to be overcome. Anita Anand's India visit not only highlights how far relations have come between the two countries, but also how fragile the progress remains.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
20 countries are set to attend the Gaza Peace Summit, and in the latest, these are visuals, viewers, that are coming in. Do remember the summit will be co-chaired by US President Donald Trump and Egyptian President. To finalize the Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal, India will also be represented by the Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirti Singh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi could not attend it due to short notice, but other leaders expected are UK's Keir Starmer, Italy's Giorgia Meloni, UN Secretary of State as well, even Pakistan's Shahbaz Sharif. The talks follow a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, mediated by Egypt, Qatar, Turkey and the United States. Going across to Siddhant Mishra, who joins us with more details. The first phase, Siddhant, essentially includes Israeli troops withdrawals, opening of 5-8 crossings, release of hostages. Preparations on that front are underway already. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here in these visuals. Lots going to come in through the day from Egypt.
Well, that's right, Kritsween. In fact, it's a big day, not only for Israel and people in Gaza, but it's a big day for West Asia as well. Now we're getting to know that the transfer of hostage in Gaza has begun ahead of their handover to the Red Cross. In fact, Red Cross convoys are now positioned outside of a prison in Israel and inside central Gaza as the final phase of the hostage prison exchange kicks into gear. Now, in fact, President Trump will also be arriving in Israel today. In fact, he'll be received by Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife Sara Netanyahu at the airport. President Trump will also be meeting the hostages. So, as I said, that it's big day for West Asia, and in fact, after visiting Israel, President Trump will be going to Egypt, where United States and Egypt have planned a grand Gaza Peace Summit, which will be attended by leaders from 20 different countries. And in fact, India has also sent its representation. MOS MEA Kirti Singh will be representing India at the Gaza Peace Summit.
Israel also prepared fully to welcome the 20 Hamas hostages. All of those hostages are going to be released, and I believe on the left side of our screens, those are visuals that are coming in live, isn't it, Siddhant? So tell us a little bit about, this all-important day, a key exchange under the breakthrough ceasefire after 2 years of war. The preparations that are underway in Israel, more importantly, because the US president first, like you said, is going to beat the leadership in Israel, followed by the summit in Egypt.
Well, that's right, Kritsween. This credit should definitely...
US President Donald Trump dropped a trade bomb on Beijing last week. 100% tariffs on all Chinese exports to the US from November 1st, above the existing 30% tariff already in place. But in classic Trump style, he seemed to walk back on that threat. In a post on Truth Social, Trump seemed to have softened that stand. He said that the highly respected President Xi Jinping just had a bad moment and he doesn't want to put his country into depression, and that the United States wants to help China, not hurt it. So what explains this changing stance of the US president and what lies ahead for both United States and China? Zaga Jacob decodes.
US President Donald Trump on Friday said he would impose a 100% duty on all products from China in response to curbs that were announced by Beijing this week. China put stiff export restrictions on rare earth minerals, leading to a rapid escalation of tensions between the world's two largest economies. On Truth Social, President Trump wrote that the tariffs would take effect from November 1 and be imposed over and above all the other tariffs on Chinese exports. Chinese goods currently face up to 30% tariff, which were put on hold until November. The United States would also put export controls on critical software to China. In an earlier social media post, the president threatened to retaliate and even cancel a planned upcoming meeting with China's leader Xi Jinping later this month. Trump called the curbs that China put this week on its exports of rare earth minerals as sinister and hostile. He said they would make life difficult virtually for every country in the world, including the United States. He also added that he planned to meet with Xi Jinping in 2 weeks' time at an international economic conference in South Korea. But now he says there seems to be no reason to do so. Markets shuddered at the developments. The S&P 500 index slid more than 2% on Friday when the bourses shut. Speaking at the White House, President Trump suggested that the tariffs could be walked back before the November 1 deadline and that he would not necessarily cancel his planned meeting with Xi Jinping.
Just want to confirm, have you canceled your meeting with President Xi? And
no, I haven't canceled, but I don't know that we're going to have it. But I'm going to be there regardless, so I would assume we might have it.
They roll back their export controls, the new announcement. Would you roll back?
Look, we're going to have to see what happens. That's why I made it November 1st. We'll see what happens, yeah.
Rare earth minerals, which are vital for making an array of products, whether it is motors, brakes, semiconductors, even aeroplane jets, have all been at the center of these tensions between the United States and China. Trump has also placed extreme tariffs on Chinese exports before, only for him to walk back on them after China restricted trade and hurt both countries in the process. Back in April, the Chinese government responded to the stiff tariffs that Trump had imposed on Chinese goods by clamping down on rare earth mineral exports to US automakers and to American defense manufacturers. The Trump administration tried to encourage China to back down by imposing its own restrictions on exports of chip-designed software, aeroplane engines, as well as other products. American tariffs on Chinese products rose to a maximum of 145%, bringing much of the trade between both countries to a complete halt. Then, their negotiators met over a couple of times in Geneva and London over the summer. China's mineral curbs threatened to close American factories, and it forced the United States, which depends on Chinese supplies, to pull back. Ultimately, officials from both America and China reached a fragile truce in meetings over the summer that led Trump to reducing his tariffs. It also led to Beijing approving more mineral exports to America. The tariffs on China were capped at 30%. The tariffs were put on a 3-month hold until November, before which both parties were hoping to clinch a trade deal. But that now seems unlikely. Last week, Beijing once again escalated its controls, asserting that it had widespread jurisdiction over the global manufacture of semiconductors as well as other critical technologies. The Chinese government said it would make it mandatory for companies anywhere in the world to obtain licenses if they are exporting products containing even a minimal amount of Chinese-produced rare earths. And this includes manufacturing of semiconductors, which are vital for the modern-day global economy. Those exports would also be controlled if the minerals were produced using Chinese mining, processing, or even magnet-making technologies. Companies with any affiliation to foreign militaries, particularly the American one, would largely be denied these licenses. The Chinese government also put new controls on equipment needed to manufacture batteries for electric cars. China mines 70% of the world's rare earths and performs the chemical processing for roughly 90% of the global supply of critical minerals. The new restrictions have caused significant anxiety amongst American companies. Analysts say the new limits could scramble the supply chains of some of the world's biggest companies, including Nvidia and Apple. In fact, tech stocks were particularly hard hit, with Nvidia coming down almost 5%, advanced micro devices falling almost 8%, and broader semiconductor sector sliding about 5% on trade on Friday. Also, China announced an anti-monopoly investigation into American chipmaker Qualcomm and new fees for American ships that are docking at Chinese ports. Analysts had speculated that China's mineral restrictions could be an effort to amass leverage ahead of the meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping. Many have called Beijing's action an economic declaration of war against the United States, also a slap in the face to President Trump amidst his efforts to try and fight for a level playing field. With the planned upcoming summit between the two leaders in just over 2 weeks, it's unclear whether both sides would be willing to de-escalate just to hold the meeting. But if that meeting does not happen, then it means that all bets are off between Beijing and Washington.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
20 countries are set to attend the Gaza Peace Summit, and in the latest, these are visuals, viewers, that are coming in. Do remember the summit will be co-chaired by US President Donald Trump and Egyptian President. To finalize the Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal, India will also be represented by the Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirti Vardhan Singh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi could not attend it due to short notice, but other leaders expected are UK's Keir Starmer, Italy's Giorgia Meloni, UN Secretary of State as well, even Pakistan's Shahbaz Sharif. The talks follow a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, mediated by Egypt, Qatar, Turkey and the United States. Going across to Siddhant Mishra, who joins us with more details. The first phase, Siddhant, essentially includes Israeli troops withdrawals, opening of 5-8 crossings, release of hostages. Preparations on that front are underway already. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here in these visuals. Lots going to come in through the day from Egypt.
Well, that's right, Kritsween. In fact, it's a big day, not only for Israel and people in Gaza, but it's a big day for West Asia as well. Now we're getting to know that the transfer of hostage in Gaza has begun ahead of their handover to the Red Cross. In fact, Red Cross convoys are now positioned outside of a prison in Israel and inside central Gaza as the final phase of the hostage prison exchange kicks into gear. Now, in fact, President Trump will also be arriving in Israel today. In fact, he'll be received by Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife Sara Netanyahu at the airport. President Trump will also be meeting the hostages. So, as I said, that it's big day for West Asia, and in fact, after visiting Israel, President Trump will be going to Egypt, where United States and Egypt have planned a grand Gaza Peace Summit, which will be attended by leaders from 20 different countries. And in fact, India has also sent its representation. MOS MEA Kirti Vardhan Singh will be representing India at the Gaza Peace Summit.
Israel also prepared fully to welcome the 20 Hamas hostages. All of those hostages are going to be released, and I believe on the left side of our screens, those are visuals that are coming in live, isn't it, Siddhant? So tell us a little bit about this all-important day, a key exchange under the breakthrough ceasefire after 2 years of war. The preparations that are underway in Israel, more importantly, because the US president first, like you said, is going to beat the leadership in Israel, followed by the summit in Egypt.
Well, that's right, Kritsween. This credit should definitely go to President Trump. Had it not been him and his administration putting in so much energy and resources to bring peace in West Asia, this hostage exchange, hostage release and the prisoner exchange wouldn't have been possible. So these are the visuals we are getting from the hostage square in Israel. In fact, since last late night, the people in Israel have been waiting for the hostages.
And we are receiving information, Wolf, that all of this process of releasing the hostages is indeed very much underway. Red Cross vehicles headed to the meeting point in northern Gaza, where Hamas will be releasing the first 5 of the 20 living hostages expected to be released today. We've received their names. They include Matan Angres, Gali and Ziv Berman, Alon Ohel, Eitan Mor, and Omri Miran. I'm personally familiar with the stories of several of these hostages. First of all, Omri Miran, I met his wife, Lishai. He has 2 young daughters who have...
Viewers, just 25 hours ago, in fact, ecosystems, militant, self-styled feminists were attacking the Modi government for allowing the visiting Taliban foreign minister from barring women journalists from a press conference held at the Afghan embassy. They weren't wrong per se, Yes, Afghan embassy is technically sovereign soil, but this is India, and we don't brook any differences between men and women, so a visiting envoy ought to respect our sensitivities. Not just the government. Even male journalists were shamed for standing up to the Taliban. The loudest protests came from Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and Mahua Moitra,